I'm just looking at the sock you're about to put over my screen.
It's not a sock. It's a David Shrigley glass cleaner. And it's quite nice. It says, "I loved you from the first moment I saw you." And so, of course, I'm going to cover you up, so I don't have to look at you, and you don't have to look at me. It feels much better. It's only because I don't know how to do the thing that you do, which is where you press pause.
What do you mean?
You make this. Well, you do a thing where you make the screen go all blurry by hitting a button on your.
I don't.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Maybe you don't.
It's just it's a phone, and it just happens to be pointing upwards, so I'm no longer on it.
Oh no, it always has paused written on the screen, like you've done some kind of magic.
Really?
Mm-hmm. You know me, I don't lie.
No, it's no magic. I don't know what's going on there.
Magic. Witchcraft.
How are you?
I'm good. I am very much feeling Christmassy this week.
Are you? Is that because you're wearing a Christmas jumper?
This is not a Christmas jumper. It's a terracotta.
I can't see. You've covered the screen.
I'd forgotten. I thought you were just giving a dig at what I was wearing. It's like, it's a terracotta, a white striped sweatshirt from, I don't know, somewhere that it was £3 in a charity shop.
So terracotta's a colour.
It's a medium, isn't it?
Yes, I think that's correct.
I think that's the right word.
For the production of cultural products.
Shut your face. Don't. I will not have you. I will not have you offer a critique of my use of the term cultural products. I've been creating a cultural product of my own today.
Have you?
I've got another Stollen waiting to go in the oven because it's Christmassy time.
Is that why you feel Christmassy? Or is it because the weather is dire?
I think it's because the weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful.
You know, we've got a worm farm. Like, it's a compost for worms. And you put your old...
When you said worm farm, I imagined in my head, just for a second, an ant farm. And I was thinking, between two panes of glass. And then I realised, no, that's not what you mean. You mean your composting.
That would be so cool, though, if there were a see-through version of this worm farm. Because... and these worms are... they're pampered.
Are they?
Yeah, they are. We prepare the food for them.
Hang about. What does that mean? Does that mean that you are specially cooking it? Or does it mean that you are choosing your menu based on what you think the worms will enjoy? Or is it both?
Oh, no, it just gets worse. It gets worse. No, we don't. No menu choice for the worms, except, of course, I'm a little bit shy, a little bit embarrassed about admitting this, but I do a little bit of prep for them. So, for example, if there's, some turnip tops or some carrot heads, those get chopped. I chop them up. It's not because, of course, that I think that somehow they won't get through a carrot top unchopped. It's just that I think it helps them, and it means that there's less kind of rotty food. I think it speeds up their peeing and pooing process.
Yeah, and everybody wants to have a speedier peeing and pooing process. Can I ask a question? Can they eat eggshells?
Yes, they can. Our eggshells for them get baked and then crushed.
Bake and crush the eggshells for the worms. That's great. I'm so super impressed with that. We do not have worms, and eggshells are the one thing that I still haven't worked out what to do with.
Yeah, they get through them.
That's great. Everything else
in fact,
goes...
I think they love them. But the thing that's...
Go on.
Oh, no, I was going to say the thing... No, I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be known as the person on this podcast that interrupts.
That ship sailed. I want to know all about...
the thing that's dominated the news cycle of my week is that as I was preparing... I'm just going to send you a photo. As I was preparing... some food for the worms, I did this to my finger.
Mother of fuck.
Which I will put in the show notes.
Horrible. I mean, first of all, it looks gangrenous. It doesn't really. It's done that thing where you've had a plaster on, which, of course, this kind of nail bed injury would require a plaster. Oh, God, I'm thinking every time like you tuck in your T-shirt, every time you pull your pants up from going to the loo, it's just going to catch. So you've got that lovely kind of like white, crepey thing going on where I'm going to actually get rid of that because that's making me want to gip. a little bit.
Oh, I love that word "gip" that the English use. And like I used to work in a kitchen, as an 18, 19-year-old. I was doing the dishes, but the chef used to give me food prep work as well, and he taught me very clearly how to use a knife. Those sharp chef knives, and so we have a pretty sharp chef knife, and I was fingers tucked under as you're supposed to do, and I've never done this. I have no idea. But I was clearly, and because you don't really have to think about doing it, and how it was that I was able to shave off what is effectively a quarter of my nail down the length of the nail, and oh my God, did it hurt. Oh.
Your mind just has to just gently wander off in a direction that's not about sharp objects, and then suddenly, oopsie.
Exactly. And of course the worst thing about this is that as the nail's going to grow, the possibilities of it catching and then ripping up totally.
We're going to have to put an explicit warning on the beginning of this at the beginning of this podcast to say that this might be triggering for people who have nail bed injuries. This is a podcast in which two friends have serious conversations about silly things and silly conversations about serious things.
I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller.
Welcome to Midlifing. Oh, I was thinking about something. I remembered something the other day when I was at dance school. And by dance school, I mean, you have to think like Fame.
Do I really have to think like Fame, or are you being silly?
Well, it was a little bit like that.
Okay.
They're all the different arts, the drama people, the music people, the dance people. And there was a cafe.
People sang there?
I don't remember that, and I don't remember any dancing on the tables.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway.
Do people sit in the snow in order to be able to channel Chekhov?
It's funny, the things you remember and the things I remember don't seem to overlap that much from Fame, except the desire to want to live forever. But I
have to ask, I'm going to interrupt you because now I'm the person who interrupts. Are you thinking of the TV show or are you thinking of the film?
I was thinking of the film, but it's very hard. It's very hard for me to disassemble the TV show from the film. There were a lot of the actors were the same, right?
Two or three.
Leroy.
Leroy, but he was called Anthony something.
Who's now dead.
Yeah, he died quite young. And also Bruno something or other who played the piano. Yeah, the film's quite
it's dark. Out there, isn't it? Yeah.
And Alan Parker, he's dead.
He did die recently. Yeah, I think you remember the film better than I do. But I was remembering at dance school, at the Fame Academy, and a teacher on the wall, on his wall was a note, and it was a list of things about feedback, the nature of feedback, and I don't remember the list at all except one thing, and I remember it poorly, and what it said was something like, "Remember who it's for." / it's not about you, meaning whoever's giving the feedback, a key thing to remember is that it's not about you. And it got me a little bit like, as the teacher, it's not about me. And it got me thinking about feedback, in part because 2 episodes ago, when we were discussing at the end of the show, encouraging people, our many listeners, to write in and to give us some feedback.
I remember. I said I didn't want feedback. I wanted fulsome praise. They could keep the feedback for you.
And that really appealed to me. That idea. And it did remind me of this, my teacher, whose name is Don Asker, still alive, and how it just caught my eye, and I remember thinking, wow, that is very, very cool, because it also reminded me of a time when I was at the Australian Choreographic Centre and I had a residency and we had a showing. I'd hoped that the people watching would not stay in their seats, that they would wander around and look at things on the space itself. And, we had some dance material to show to a closed audience. And one of the members of the centre, not the director, and this person said, I said I'd hoped that you'd get up and wander around. And he said, I had no desire to get up and walk around because of what I was seeing.
Ouch.
And it really did. And I was thinking, because I wanted to ask you, my question is, what's the worst piece of feedback you've ever been given?
I'll answer that question circuitously because God forbid I should ever come at anything in a direct line.
Well, I think that would be disappointing.
It would be disappointing. It also would be completely out of character, and probably, I think by this
I think
point...
it would turn people off, wouldn't it?
It would. I think the people who are still tuning in are probably thinking, I hope he doesn't answer this question directly. I hope he goes off on a little ramble. And here
That
I go.
involves chickens and his dad.
My dad's not in this story, although my academic dad is in this story.
Oh, I love that you have an academic dad.
Yeah, I think, don't we all have an academic parent of some description?
Yeah, we do.
I got mine really late. Mine was my PhD supervisor. I didn't have anybody at my undergraduate or my MA that made me... I didn't have anybody who made me feel seen or understood. I didn't have really a moment where I saw an educator not make it about themselves until I was doing my PhD. And that was Robin Nelson. Okay, so this is what I learned from Robin. One of the things that I learned from him was it's actually not in relationship to me being supervised by him. It was team teaching with him.
So he was mentoring you, really.
Absolutely, in the best possible way. But what I learned from him was that good feedback should be responding to what's there, not what isn't there. And I've tried so hard to keep hold of that. In fact, just this morning writing feedback, I was trying to go, what can I see? What was working? What wasn't working? And how might they improve it? Rather than why didn't you do this? Because why didn't you do this is about me. Whereas I could see this, you presented this made this happen in the space, this was interesting in this way, is about them. So that's a very long-winded way
of avoiding
saying,
talking about a bad...
No, I'm coming to the bad feedback, I promise. But I learned a lot from that moment of conversation, and this was probably in the first or second year after we'd finished our PhD, and we gave a paper on something, and I can't remember even what it was about. But I think we used the idea of the screen, the flat screen. We must have been talking about. We were talking about a piece that we'd made for camera a long time ago, in collaboration with a photographer called Dave Penny, whose work is beautiful.
Still alive.
Still alive. And so we'd made a screen-based piece with him. We'd given a presentation about it. We talked about the idea of the screen being a democratic site, and this led to an accusation of naivety.
Because you used the word democracy.
Because we used the word democracy.
Oh, this is hilarious! This is hilarious. Yeah. Go on, please.
It was no. I'm nearly done. And it became very clear that what was happening in this moment was less feedback for us. For the moment that the critique was being offered, I felt my stomach drop. And I think that was the first real moment where I heard Robin's words land on me about me, rather than as a teaching moment about other people's feedback for other people, to go, this feedback is not about me. In this moment, this feedback is absolutely about a bigger thing.
But so interesting, isn't it? Because at the Australian Choreographic Centre all those years ago, 2002, I guess, or maybe 3, when that person said that to me, and when I asked myself this question, what's the worst bit of feedback you've ever had? That's what jumped to mind, right? What's fascinating about it was that I was so offended by this idea, because I think I'd bought into the idea, and I used to say this to students, that I'm paid to be interested in you, meaning my job is to be interested in your work. And I didn't mean that as a horrible thing. I just meant recognize that my work here is to be involved and engaged and to challenge what it is that you're doing. Yeah. And so I thought the same of this person. But what he did, and I only thought of this just yesterday, he gave me an incredibly useful piece of information. And I missed it. It's complex how what we say, how it's heard. You know, it's a little bit like the conversation we had a few weeks ago. But
yeah, I think so. And it goes back to that conversation that we haven't had or rather we have had but we haven't shared, which is the idea of cancel culture, and that sense that we've moved into a context where the reception is less important than the saying of it. Their defense of their own vitriol is often, well, I'm entitled to an opinion. What is the value of sharing your opinion? So you found value in what was said to you 18 years ago by thinking about it, but I guess without, I'm not trying to take your part in this, but there is some questions about what was the value in how it was said. And yeah, you can do that. But
it was incredibly hurtful. I mean,
Yeah.
I was devastated. I mean, I really was. It was, and because of course I thought of this as a nurturing space where they were trying to develop the skills and the capacities or whatever of the people who were invited and paid to be there. And I felt completely undermined, completely embarrassed. It was like I was shamed by it.
It's the public being brought short, isn't it?
I was just laughing because you that question about democracy or the democratic. I remember in 2006 when I just arrived in the UK and I was asked to give a presentation of my work at the university I just moved to, and this young man.
What did he say? What did he say?
Well, I just happened to use talk about technology as a democratic site, and this young man, let's call him, I don't know, Lee. He had a good head of hair at the time. His question was about my use of the word democratic. And I remember your question being about, this has come up because we've just had this experience of being questioned about the use of the word democratic. And so I want to ask you about your use of the word. Hey, do you know what? We've got, we had an email from our ones of listeners. I mean, our dozens, our many listeners. We did.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Long-time listener, first-time emailer, Mandy Smith. And you know what she asked?
No.
She wants a question. She didn't, no feedback. It was excellent, other than love your work.
Okay. When she says your work, is it the plural or is she speaking more to me, do you think?
I'm pretty sure it said, Dear Simon.
Fudge. All right, then go on.
No.
What's the question?
The question, if you could go back in time and talk to your 18-year-old self and give them one single bit of advice for the future, what would it be?
That's one of those questions that is unanswerable for me.
Really?
Yeah, utterly unanswerable because...
You've lived a perfect life.
No, I haven't, but I have that kind of cause and effect relationship with the past. So my first immediate and not at all facetious thing would be to say to my 18-year-old self, take up Ashtanga yoga immediately. Don't wait until you're 35 to start doing a daily practice.
By the way, you used to tease me about doing yoga. You called it, you do that Madonna yoga.
I know. And if I could go back in time, I would tell my 18-year-old self to start practicing Ashtanga yoga. But if I told my 18-year-old self to start practicing Ashtanga yoga, I wouldn't have met most of the people who I continue to hold incredibly dear in my life. I mean, I would have done, probably, but I would have met them in a different moment and my relationships would have been radically different
I see.
to them. So I can't imagine going back and going, but the
question's not. The question isn't necessarily designed to make your life better now. It's just a question about what would other people, if you, oh fuck knows, you have to cut this bit out. But it's a little bit like, let's make it in a. Say it again.
I'm leaving this in.
It's not fair, the power you have. But the hypothetical aspect of it is not because I think I would be a bit. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's about how would I be a better person now if I gave myself some feedback.
I think it's such a really rich and incredibly interesting question, and I feel less than because I'm unable to answer it. Not like look at me, I've just won the game because I refuse. I genuinely find it. I would love to be able to think about what I would say, but I get so caught up in the Back to the Future nature of the question. that I miss the philosophy of it because I get stuck behind the physics of it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because the thought that comes to mind, I shouldn't really start any sentence with "it's pretty interesting" because really is building up expectations a little high. Like this could be one of the dullest things I ever say in my life, which thankfully you'll cut out. I think this whole cutting out theme is really. Do you think it has to stop?
No, because I really like leaving in us both saying, I'm going to cut that out, and then cut out all the stuff that we don't say we're going to cut out. I spend a lot of time editing out perfectly cogent moments in order to leave a lot of stuttering and stumbling idiocy, because there's these long, like 10, 15 minutes sort of tracts of time where we are erudite, we are calm, we are witty. You keep all your clothes on. I don't mention my parents. It's, it's
your
really...
bum.
Hey, I haven't mentioned
I think
my
you did at the beginning.
fundament. Did I?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, what did I say about my bum?
I can't remember. You meant it was about poos and wheeze.
Oh, you started that. You were talking about worms
I was
pooing
talking
and
about
weeing.
my worms.
I said, that's you and your bum, not me and my
No,
bum.
it's their bums.
Except they're your worms. You didn't tell us where you kept them. You just said you wished it was a see-through process.
I love that. Actually, if any listener ever got to hear these unedited conversations, they would actually get a sense of just how smart we really are. But what you present to them is this kind of slightly ditzy, easy to laugh, always laughing.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to cut out as many references to critical theory as possible.
Oh, please, thank God.
Although I think I did once leave in a reference to Derrida and you shouted at me. So that,
I was actually a bit shocked that you... It was a joke.
I'd read Derrida. The wound of wishing to return.
No, but the thing I was going to say is that the thought that came to mind when I read Mandy's question was it can't not just reveal something about how I think of myself now.
Yeah.
Like... That's the guts of the question for me, and I find that a bit intimidating. But I'm going to say what I thought in response to her question, because I want to encourage Mandy to keep asking questions so that we don't run out of things to say or talk about. And that is, I would say to my 18-year-old self in little old New Zealand, I think two things. One, listen with all of your heart to the people around you, and the people you don't know and the people you do know. So, as they say, be all ears. And the other one, I think, is commence or begin a gentle practice of not judging others and not judging yourself. That I think I would be an utterly, utterly different person.
Do you think it's possible for that 18-year-old self to be able to hear that offer?
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
That's the pleasure of the question, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because I find myself wishing that I could, if I could say something, and now that I guess I've stopped thinking about the
Back to the Future, Marty McFly.
The Back to the, yeah, exactly,
issues.
exactly that. And if I could just sort of think about something which is sort of softer in its approach, I guess I would want to say something very similar, which would be stop being embarrassed.
Oh.
Stop being embarrassed by everything everybody else does, and stop being embarrassed by what you do, and stop allowing other people's... It's that thing about what other people bring with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's
seeing things as they are, you mean?
Yeah. Stop giving a shit about what people think about you, because they're going to think what they want about you anyway.
So maybe if I were to be so bold, I could improve on Mandy's question, and that is, what would you say to yourself, your 18-year-old self, that you think your 18-year-old self would be able to hear?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
I got nothing.
No.
I mean, it's not the point of the question, and it's not an improvement on the question, but...
I don't know, drink earlier? Would that be something I'd say? Don't be so tightly wound.
Chill.
Yeah. Maybe kiss a boy.
Oh. Are you saying you haven't kissed a boy? Like
No,
full-on pashed?
No, never.
Lee Miller.
I know, it's quite shocking, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I guess you met Bob so early, though, didn't you?
Exactly, and that's it. I think maybe that's why I would say it to my 18-year-old self, because I met Bob at 19. I think maybe that would be a thing to say. Oh, maybe kiss a boy.
And you think your 18-year-old self would have been able to hear that?
Yeah, I think my 18-year-old self would have been really happy to have been given permission.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Do you think you're able to answer the question that you set for yourself now?
Well,
Because
I
you just
set
said,
for
I've
you.
got nothing. And then,
You know what? I think I might have been able to hear the judging part.
yeah.
I think I might have been able to hear that. I think I would have heard the don't judge yourself so much, but I think it would have been harder for me to hear about judging others.
The two go hand in hand, though, don't they? Because it feels to me
Yeah,
like...
I think they do. I do.
I think the people who I encounter who are the most judgmental and cruel with their words are the people, and I'm talking here about people directly in my life. I'm not talking here about the Boris Johnsons of the world. I'm not talking about people who I can only understand through their public action and through their publicly
Which is a very strange filter, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or an implausible filter.
Yeah. Even somebody like him. I mean, I'm picking him out of the air, but even somebody like him who has both held public office and also had an organ through which to articulate himself regularly
I can't believe you just used the word Boris Johnson and organ in effectively the same sentence.
There is really no other way to think of him other than as a massive tool. So that seems fair.
We're going to lose some listeners now, aren't we?
I hope so, because if anybody who doesn't think he's a massive tool is listening to us, they can fuck off. Let me pay their bus fare. In fact, let me wrap up their sandwiches in a map. Just in case there was any lack of clarity. I don't want them listening to me.
No. I disagree.
I know, and I'm being silly and playful. Of course, this is how discourse moves forward, by people having conversations with people who disagree with them. Where you tell them that they're wrong and they should be...
All I have to do is sit here in silence and just let you...
fall into the chasms of my own making.
Yes, exactly. I just love the own chasms of your own what?
Making. It's like, it is really like you can see my mouth digging the hole, can't you? And then my feet continuing to walk towards it.
Beautiful.
Apparently, I speak in certainties.
I thought you were going to say tongues.
Oh, I've been watching some of the. I'm now jumping to Trump, but have you seen his? Have you seen his? Sorry, his spiritual advisor.
What?
She's this.
Wait.
I'm going to send you the link so you can watch it. But there's this long video of her self-aggrandizing and speaking in tongues, and it is.
So you don't believe she's speaking in tongues?
I didn't say that. I said that the video is full of her self-aggrandizement and speaking in tongues. Those two things may be interdependent or they may be separate from one another. Again, it goes back to this idea that I cannot judge people from the outside because this is their public persona.
Oh, you didn't finish that thought about judgment. Anyway.
Thinking about those people who lean into judgment immediately, and the ones who stay there are the ones who are usually the least satisfied with themselves.
Oh, I think that's partly why. It's partly, seeing that side of myself, and which we all have to a greater or lesser extent. At least I hope we all have. Else I'm really an outlier. But yeah, that, and just seeing, wow, who's that serving? Like, who's that for? Who's that judgment for? And the smallness of it, and the total lack of not total lack of it, but the seeming lack of empathy, and capacity to imagine someone else's life and the circumstances under which they are living it. I mean, that's heavy stuff, or big stuff, I guess. But it's if I'm being positive, I say something to aim for as a 52-year-old.
Oh, that reminds me of the time my granddad was cremated. Just the one time.
Just the once.
I'll maybe save that story for another day.
Feedback's fascinating, eh?
Oh,
But
It really is.
just to be clear, we don't want your feedback.
No, we'll happily have your fulsome praise and maybe the occasional question. But things like, where did you get your shoes? And that's a nice hat. Is it new?
Are you saying to Mandy that Mandy's question was too complex?
No, I loved Mandy's question. I love Mandy. Mandy's excellent. I give her 10 out of 10. At least.